Hello, everybody. Great to be back on stage here in Heidelberg for the second time. And what can I say? I'm here to tell you about unlocking the power and potential of near-time data from multiple data sources. So, setting the scene. We live in an era defined by unprecedented technological advancements and digital transformation. Every aspect of our lives, from the way we communicate to how we conduct business, is transformed and revolutionized by the power of data. Data has become that lifeblood that drives organizations. It fuels innovation, drives decision-making, and unlocks opportunities that were once thought unimaginable. The world is becoming an increasingly data-driven event, with companies relying on that data to give a competitive edge. So why a data-driven organization? I suppose the question is more, why not? It's no longer the way of using an informed decision. You need data to back it up. It's not a gut reaction. It's not an intuition. You need evidence to support it. It drives efficiency and productivity. It lets you understand efficiencies from production processes, identify risks. If you can identify it, you can resolve it. You can make an action. But it also drives supply chain optimization, increases employee engagement. And being data-driven, of course, empowers businesses to thrive in a complex and technological competitive landscape, making it an essential practice for modern organizations. So this is me. Huge picture, larger than life. So Roger Pearson, Director for Data Analytics at Smith and Nephew, based in the United Kingdom. I've been in this field for over 30 years, and I love that I get to do this every day. Today, I'm working with senior stakeholders to deliver actionable insights and business value through using data and visualization technologies across multiple data domains. Business value does come in all shapes and sizes, from huge data-driven platforms to KPI reporting packs. But what keeps me grounded on a daily basis is not only family, but my trusty friend, Ted, a companion whose antics can brighten up even the darkest of days. I would never be without him, especially working from home as people often do. So Smith and Nephew, what do? We are a medical portfolio device company. We focus on the repair, regeneration, and replacement of soft and hard tissue. We exist to restore people's bodies, to take the limits off living. We have 3 global franchises, going from orthopedics, sports medicine, all the way through to wound management, and more recently in the field of robotic surgeries. We've got over 18,000 employees in over 100 countries, part of the FTSE 100 index, and a turnover for last year of $5.5 billion. So a pretty big company. Now, the global supply chain is a focus for most companies today, especially Smith and Nephew, with having so many people in so many places. Effective supply chain optimization requires a deep understanding of the various factors that impact the movement of products from the start to the end of their life cycle. One of the many key considerations in supply chain optimization is that of the identification and then the removal of potential bottlenecks in that process. So we have a mission. All companies have a mission. Ours is quite straightforward, and it's similar to most. Make and source the right product in the right quantity from the right location. Distribute it using local or global distribution centers, of which we have 13 global distribution centers and over 700 local distribution centers. Deliver to the right customer at the right location. That is always a challenge when you have multiple delivery points for customers. But it enables the usage so that item can be used at the right time by a medical practitioner or surgeon to make and improve the patient's life. So it's a real-world case. These things affect our everyday lives. Underpinning our company driving statement of live life unlimited. So you may question, what is the value of near-time data? Well, we could look at it in the past. Traditionally, companies Large organizations have taken data once a day, so your data updated overnight, so you'd come in the next day and it would be there. That works in a single country or a couple of country model, but as you can see, we are spread all across the world. So our companies in the Far East, especially Japan, their data is often 18 hours old before they get their reports because we don't close until the American business closes. Today, because of business requirements, we're extracting 4 times a day. Even that has its challenges due to the sheer volumes. But where we really want to be, and will be very shortly, is extracting data every hour. And that's really important because we're across over 100 countries, so servicing all 24 time zones, it means the user has its data no older than 1 hour. And that sends a very powerful message because we have businesses, let's say, all around the world. And it's true that it's a nerve center. You know, for us, medical, inputs are coming in, which obviously ingestion, processed, well, landed, processed, transformed, and then delivered out to the right consumption pattern, whether it's to a user or to a downstream system. So that's the vision that we see it. Now, we're on an SAP event. We're talking about SAP being a primary source. So wouldn't be right if I didn't talk a little bit about SAP. So I think it's fair to say extracting data from SAP is challenging. It's a highly complex system with a highly structured and controlled data environment, and seriously controlled. So, number of challenges. Complex data model. Again, you look at it in detail, there's over 400,000 views and tables and custom views. Where would you start extracting it? Customization. Older on-premise systems are customized exceedingly heavily, especially ones of the age we have. We have some that are over 15 years old and have had customization on customization, resulting in many additional tables and views. Data volumes. Data volumes for us are in the hundreds of millions, and some tables, such as the beloved KONV, 3.2 billion rows. It blows your mind. But they are there, they drive pricing. Data extraction tools, many data extraction tools on the market, all of varying types, all struggle to extract data at speed and at scale that the business now requires. And as we all know, if you're extracting large amounts of data, it has operational impacts on the SAP systems themselves. And cost is always an interesting model. Whether most companies take the runtime license of SAP because it's cheaper, but that means you can't access the database directly. So you have to use a tool, the cost of the tool, the cost of transforming it, the cost of landing it wherever it needs to go. So, like I say, Smith and Nephew have been here 10 years now. Our data extraction journey is always interesting. We've come from a background where we have used tools such as Informatica Legacy, so the Power Center tools, more recently the Informatica Cloud tools. So I looked at tool number 15, and that brings me on to SMP Glue. So a quick segue into, again, what happened. We knew what we had, we couldn't go on. And we tried and tried and tried, gave up, and then a call in a new year suddenly said, hey, we can do this, we can do Delta. So went into the detail, understood it, and suddenly became excited about what it could do. For us, it was the promise of being able to get the deltas, but more importantly, it's part of the architecture of SAP. It's not a separate server, it's not software as a cloud, it's inside. So to us, it's like SAP with glue inside, and that's how it works for us. But more importantly, it had to be SAP certified. Our business can only deal with certified products, as many can, and we found a certified product. For us, very quick, very easy to use. It's very simplistic in its design, how it works, but it works. It works time and time again. As I say, like I said, it's integrated, but it's about breaking down the data silos. When we look at our biggest SAP systems, we've got 7 or 8 business units extracting the same data every day at the same time, so many millions of rows extracted for no purpose. The whole idea is to bring one system together, so you're ingesting it once and distributing it to many. At the same time, of course, we're going to the cloud. What do? We find a database. We pick Snowflake. To us, pretty easy conversation. We are predominantly Oracle and SQL, So to us, well, to me personally, Snowflake is like Oracle on steroids, as it was developed by ex-Oracle people. And they understand it, and we had technologies that Snowflake has today, such as the time travel. We had that 9 years ago with competitive products, but we've now got it all in one wrapper. And we had to come off on-premise. We've got data centers in Atlanta that we can't upgrade the servers. You know, that they are 9 years old. So again, it forces the change. Why do we need to move? I think I don't really need to preach to the choir about why Snowflake. For us, it was why not. It was an easy conversation. It's an industry-leading database. But you look at investment cycles within a company, we had gone from on-premise hardware, which we'd purchased, capitalized, depreciated. So again, we're talking like nearly 10 years now, and it's still operating, so it's fully depreciated. So it's the right time to be able to say, right, let's move from a capital model to an operational model. So now Snowflake is a pay-per-use system. But it's got the promise of, it isn't just relational databases like Oracle. We can bring in the semi-structured data and use all the leverage that platform has got for us. So again, key benefits to us was the separation of storage and compute. Makes it nice and straightforward. The cool piece is the elasticity. So you can run on a small warehouse. If that runs out of capacity, it will automatically spin up a second, a third, a fourth. When it's done, it'll spin them back down again. So again, you can define it to control it as you want, or you can go at a larger warehouse. So again, that made it really easy for us because you didn't have to buy another server, which may take 2 to 3 months. Zero copy cloning. In the old days, you would bring your data into the center and you would do extraction routines and store them into operational data stores. Don't need to do that. In microseconds, you can replicate a table and it stays there until it's refreshed again. So again, creating of data domains very, very quick and very smart. Time travel. Not quite a Doctor Who TARDIS, but the ability to wind back and say, hey, what was in that table as at yesterday or a week ago at 2:45 a.m. Be able to do that gives real benefit, not just to the business, but to the support teams. There are always faults in operations, and it enables us to troubleshoot very well. And everything else. You know, performance is great to column in a database. Zero maintenance. Well, I'm using somebody else's computer if I break it down. So they're in charge of upgrading it. It doesn't impact us. We haven't had a single upgrade issue on Snowflake. Security is to the maximum. It does security that you cannot do. And things like Oracle, you can control who can use what, who can spend what, who has access to what. And to us, as you could tell, this is a cost reduction exercise because Oracle is not cheap. Our Oracle is horribly expensive. So this way, we're able to control what we use, and we're running at over less than half of what our Oracle costs are. Again, leading into cost control. If you can't see it, you can't manage it. We look at everything on cost control. We keep our eye on who's running what, what's running at date and time, so therefore we can correctly control the credits because you can spend $40,000 on one query if you don't have the control in place, and that has happened. So that brings us on to the next part of the story. So why have we done this? We've built what we call the unified data platform. So Smith and Nephew traditionally had 7 data warehouses, as I showed earlier. The goal here was to build one. There will be only one. So from that, we bring in all of our data sources. Again, we have a lot of data sources. You know, we have over 600 business applications. So for this, we're bringing in many. For the example I had here with supply chain, we were bringing in data from 22 sales and ERP systems, which again is no mean feat. SAP is only part of our landscape, which is why we could not go the SAP route. We needed something agnostic. So those data sources then break down into your 5 traditional types of structured for the relational databases, semi-structured for JSON and XML, into unstructured. You know, we're bringing in PDFs, which we need for medical research, and we're bringing in Word documents that we're producing for regulatory authorities. And of course, REST APIs, and getting their Internet of Things, we're bringing in production line data. Again, a big company, a big system, a big solution, unfortunately, has ended up with 5 data extraction tools. Soon to be 3, then maybe to 2. So we're using things like AWS Glue. to pull in all of our majority of our non-SAP data. We're using SMP Glue to pull from our SAP systems. We're using the old legacy version of Informatica to be able to get a very, very old SAP system that nothing else can read. And we're using things like Amazon DMS, which is database technology. So again, we're using the cheapest tools we can use to get the job done. So for us, all of that extraction effectively lands up in an AWS S3 bucket. So everything we do goes as a compressed file into that bucket. Now, you might ask why. Why not go straight to Snowflake? Well, the thing is, if you go straight to Snowflake, there is a cost impact. Whilst you are transferring data, you are spinning up a warehouse. But if we go via Amazon AWS, we are then able to utilize the Snowflake Snowpipe technology, which effectively is an ETL event. It is looking for files in that S3 bucket. When it sees them, it then transfers those tables directly into Snowflake, and you're charged by the microsecond. So you're not minimum 5 minutes or minimum 3 minutes. It's by the microsecond. So it's the cheapest way, although I do understand there are now cheaper ways, but that's progress. That's the cheapest way when we started. So landing being landing is exactly the same structure as the source. We then use a product called dbt, which effectively executes SQL templates against that data and transforms it into staging tables. Staging tables have business names. The fields have business names. So at that point, that's our translation layer so that the business get information that they understand, not the technological names that SAP has or other systems. And then following a traditional model, we harmonize that data. So again, I talked about 22 sales and manufacturing systems. They are all harmonized down into individual dimension tables and fact tables, as you would do in an enterprise data warehouse, because you always need that level of harmonized reporting at the top echelons of the business. But that doesn't stop us taking data directly from the staged tables, because they are the latest version of that table in that system. We can then deliver those using the zero-copy cloning technologies. We are then able to snapshot that into the data domains. So those domains become the business. They own the domain, not IT. They say what goes in there. They say how often it's refreshed. They actually secure the Active Directory groups themselves. So again, it's true democratization. We're giving the power back to the business. That is, from there, that is consumed into data products, are ultimately consumed by the tools that the users use. And we use things like Power BI, Cognos Analytics 11, Tableau, and unfortunately, we can't get rid of Excel. I think it's here for life, but that is still used. So to break down the SMP Glue slide of the ingestion, Smith and Nephew don't generally have one of anything. We have 5 SAP systems on 4 different versions, which makes our life, shall we say, a challenge. So we have a version 4.7, 2 version 5s, a version 6, and SAP HANA. So for us, we have to make sure all that data from SAP can harmonize. So again, we can't use CDS views and things like that in HANA. We have to use the compatibility tables to bring everything back to the Smith and Nephew model, not just an SAP view centric of the world. Using SMP Glue, again, quite a straightforward run through to us. It's as simple as there's an amount of configuration which takes no more than, and maybe an hour or 2 to look at. Where do you want things to be? How do you want the connection? What is the target looking like? How do we want to name things? So all that template control is set up. Security is everything, so the security roles of who can do what in the product. And then from a development point of view, it's a case of, hey, a glue table. A glue table is the definition of what you want to extract. So from our point of view, we add the glue fields, which is a glue request, a glue date and time, and a trigger to say it's deleted. We import the fields, hit the button to activate it. When you activate, you get a JSON fragment about what the file is. So it gives you the file layout. We built 2 tools on top of that to automatically build the Snowflake landing table DDL and the Snowpipe to ingest it. So again, saving lots and lots of time just by doing it automatically. And that's a great way of doing it. We then move on to things like glue fetchers. The glue fetcher, to me, it's a database trigger on a table, or If it's a pool table, you have to tell it it's a full load. And those are some of the gotchas we have got. So we make sure we don't put triggers on views, and we can't put triggers on pool tables either. That really causes trouble for the SAP team. A glue consumer, which kind of wraps everything together to make sure all the pieces are there, resulting in an extractor. The extraction is the heart of the system. That's what actually extracts the data. So we have it configured to only generate data if there's one or more row in a table, be it a full load or a delta, and you always get an audit record. Again, it's all about seeing what has happened. Again, when I came to look at this with the team, I realized there was something missing. Smith and Nephew operate everything in a batch system. So working with the team, they developed a scheduling system so we could run things as a batch. And that is part of the standard product now. It's no longer just an add-on for Smith and Nephew. So with that, we're able to schedule a whole series of extractions. And for us, you're talking at least 340 tables per SAP system. So with that, we can create a batch and do all the initializations to set the delta pointers. We can do the initial full loads. But more importantly, when that's done, be able to run the delta processes as frequently as we want. But because it is part of a bigger ecosphere, we get a start of file table, and we get an end. So the end one is important because we have watchers looking for the end JSON files. So when it sees them, it can tell the DBT code to go. It can take that whole data set consistently through into our landing area and then through to our staging area. And going on with the rest of the pattern, delivers the data to S3 buckets, which are then processed in through snowpipes into the landing tables. And that to us is as simplistic. There's a lot more detail, but that is the simplistic way. So what do the metrics look like? So supply chain metrics, doesn't sound a lot, 18 source systems, but hey, 5 of them are SAP. Plenty of tables, but to us the main numbers are our deltas on a daily basis are now no more than 15 million rows. I originally predicted between 50 and 75 million. And this is on large systems, on all of them. It's much less than we thought. We send data to third-party processors. You know, we're sending up to 87 million records a day to a third party to machine our data to tell us what to make in the right place with a batch time. But you put that all into context. Our previous tool that we had was forcing us to extract 3.2 billion rows a day, which you stop and think, you think, okay, that's fine, but you then go, for a month, that's 97 billion. For a year, that's 1,168 billion, which is probably 1.1 trillion, but I just kept billions because it blew my mind when I started to put that together. It's like, seriously? That is a large amount of data. Large amount of data means large amount of processing credits, large amount of ETL costs, large amount of Snowflake costs. So we've had SMP glue in production for what, some 4 months plus now. We've never seen more than 15 million deltas on a day, which means in a month it's 450 million, but for a year it's 5.4 billion. And you step back and think, well, hang on a minute, 2 days of the old tool equals a year's worth of glue. It's crazy. But the real numbers come. We're consuming 99.7 fewer rows, or is it less rows? I like fewer. That's 3.1 billion less rows per day, which gets crazy. So that has a constant. Again, being conservative, that's a reduction, at least 30% reduction in ETL processing costs. Because a lot of systems you process by the row. 35% reduction in Snowflake warehouse costs. Chances are it's more than that because we were going directly from the source straight to Snowflake, so the warehouses were spinning. Even though they were small, they were still costing us a lot of money. And reducing the batch from almost 2 hours, again, for our largest system, down to 15 minutes. That's for a day's worth, which lets us get into the new scale, the new cadence we want to be in. Value, I need to hurry up a bit, I'm starting to run out of time. So, value delivered, well, pick your choice on value. Value can be reduced operating costs, reduced processing costs. For us, it was about the first time we've got all of our data in Smith and Nephew in one system to assess what the demand is, what the supply is, to see the network planning. Again, crazy on global supply chain, it's everywhere. But you have to grab the data. But the biggest value is the global view of inventory. And for us, inventory isn't just what's manufactured in a production line, what's in a warehouse, what's en route to a customer. We actually hold consignment stock in customers, so we see the total view of what's there and can look at expiration and redeploy that particular item somewhere else where it's going to be used. We got a ton of additional benefits, great harmonizing things. We use it as an MDM cycle, so we take our data that comes through. When it comes into the staging area, because it's tagged, it then goes into our data quality tool, which we then look at, we machine, and then feed it back into the source system so it comes around in the next cycle. So again, feeding that recursive loop. Takeaway thoughts. Again, I've been throwing them in as I go here, but many. The value of ingestion versus frequency versus costs. The more you want, the more it costs. So it's finding that happy balance. Again, for us, we will end up probably every hour because we're servicing all 24 time zones. It goes without saying, adopt a Delta first approach. It's got to be Delta first or it's not going to work. You're not going to be able to get your data fast enough. For us, we qualify the request first. Is it a view they've asked data for? And go, no, let's look at the underlying concept of the view. That tripped us up several times. Lots of business engagement, again, mandatory from the beginning. And got to keep saying it, there's no such thing as too much data quality. The data quality team was involved from the very beginning, and they're the ones who said, we need this plug-in capability. But SAP data ingestion doesn't have to be painful. You might have heard some of my pain, but it's now gone from pain to joy. We are getting data in fast. It's easy. It's running. It's not failing. And that's what you want, a reliable data pipeline. Where do we go next? Well, where don't we go next? Driven by the business. Again, it's not for us to decide, it's for the business to decide what data products we develop next per data domain. So they have to call out the business value, the funding is done, the work is there. But what's happened is we've kind of set fire to the business and their imagination has gone wild. They are now standing up their own resources. They've got their own data engineering teams who are building their own data products from these data domains. And that's what you want, you've got full engagement. So what does it mean on a wrap-up? You know, the value of the near-time data is in its potential to provide invaluable insights. The value is in its ability to balance between the immediacy of real-time data, but the depth of insights that can be gained from historical data analysis. But what does that really mean? It allows businesses to make informed decisions based on recent trends, considering long-term patterns, but it enables you to then build on top the promise that's AI by having that stable database. And it is, without doubt, it's transformative for all organizations. And what can I say? Thank you very much.